Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mother of three, Bougie Vintage, and let's get right on into this video. As I am sitting here before you, it is March 17th, 2025. Now, if you know anything about March 17th, you know that it is St. Patrick's Day. However, St. Patrick's Day, every year that it rolls around for the last 5 years, has been a little bit interesting for me because today marks 5 years to the day that D-Day happened. Now, if you don't know what D-Day is, I'm about to break it down for you. If you have ever been in a relationship where your significant other has cheated on you and you stayed, typically online on different forums and in different communities, they call the big day that you find out about the affair D-Day, right? Doomsday. And so D-Day for me was March 17th, 2020. And so today is the 5th year anniversary of that event. Now, I believe in 2022, I released a video called, I think it was called My Husband Cheated and I Stayed, something like that. And so in that video, I think I do talk about it. I haven't watched it back, so I really don't know what the hell I said in that video. But I have a completely different outlook on D-Day now, 5 years later. And I realized that D-Day was literally one of the greatest setups of all time. God is so funny. And now I celebrate this day because it is the marking of when God was letting me know that I'm one, daddy's girl. Two, we locked in, we BFFs and he don't keep nothing from me. And three, that no matter what is going on, that I would always be 10 steps ahead of my ex. And so I didn't know it at the time that when I look back 5 years later that I would be able to identify this, but I definitely have spent time reflecting on that time and I look at it completely different now because that day was really monumental in the things that would progress going forward. I'm going to do another video about what happens after you stay, like if you've been cheated on and you stay. I'm going to do another video about that, but today I just wanted to talk about that situation. I think I'll start with 3 days before D-Day because if you followed that story, then you know that what happened was 3 days before St. Patrick's Day, I had a dream and the dream did not sit well in my spirits because it was my, at the time, husband having an affair, and the dream was so vivid and felt so real that when I woke up from the dream, my spirit was disturbed, and disturbed to the point where I just couldn't let it go. And so I go on this wild goose chase. You guys know this story. I go on this wild goose chase, and before I know it, I find out about an Airbnb that's been booked for St. Patrick's Day. And, you know, there's no mentioning of this Airbnb. And so I was reading my old journal, and I saw that at that time, I was giving my ex the benefit of the doubt. Like, literally in there, I was like, there's no proof or evidence that there's another person, so blah, 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 blah. And so I'm writing this out of the journal, and when I read the journal back, I'm laughing because I'm just like, he got me good. So I'm like, damn, like everything was giving duck and I was saying goose. I think at the time in my mind, I never ever thought that my ex would cheat on me. I felt like we had gone through so much and that, you know, it was, you know, things got bad. Like they got terrible, right? When you're in something, you don't realize how bad it really is. But that's why I'm also thankful for my journals, because the proof was in the pudding, okay? When you're in something toxic or terrible, you don't necessarily realize that. And so I wasn't realizing just how bad it was. The cheating that was going on right under my nose was really an eye-opener once I found out about it. However, obviously, when I found out about it, I didn't leave despite my efforts to leave. And so, you know, hindsight's always going to be 2020. I think because my journals were all I had, I wasn't the type of person that every time something terrible is happening, every time he said something crazy to me, every time blah, 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 I wasn't whipping my phone out to record it. And so this day in particular, March 17th, 2020, that was the first time I had ever done that. And the reason that I had done it, well, one, I don't even really recall the decision-making process. I don't know why I necessarily pulled my phone out in my dark room and started recording. I think I was just genuinely scared and fearful that he was going to hurt me, so I started recording it. The Holy Spirit child telling me, whip the phone out, girl, I don't know. But like, that night was the only time that I'd ever done that. And there had been many times where I probably should have had my phone out, but like, those are not things you want to document. Like, I remember when that happened and I kept watching the video back. Well, it's pretty much just audio because it is in the dark, but like, I remember watching it back so many times and just like being flabbergasted by it. Like, what the hell is this, right? And so my thought process at that time, when I was posting everything to Instagram, from the cheating to the threats, my thought process at the time was, if I do this, I won't stay with this person anymore because I've been trying to leave. And so I felt at the time, if I expose this, I'm going to feel too much shame and embarrassment to stay with this person because, like, are you dumb? Right? And so that is really what I was thinking, and that's why I posted it. And then 3 days after the incident and the dust was starting to settle, I tried to leave, and I was just like, you know, we can get a divorce or an annulment. At the time, I used the word annulment in the text message. And, you know, I talked about, like, we can just co-parent the girls because we were just Salem and Belle at the time. And, you know, at the time I told him, like, you don't have to worry about how often you can see them or whatever. Just, we need to move out and go our separate ways. But, you know, I want to be done with this situation because I feel like the relationship is over. There's no salvaging it after this. Like, you know, I'm done. Okay. And of course I was manipulated to stay because, you know, he started talking about family and all these things. And I was like, child, if you want to stay for the kids, it's not gonna work now. We're gonna be right back here, you know. And so I have all these messages, right? And so I knew in my heart that if there was no real work, if there was no real effort for the relationship, you know, and therapy, that was one thing I was like, therapy, right? I knew that if those things didn't happen, there would probably be 10 more D-days, and I wasn't putting up with that, obviously. But no matter how much I pushed for therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy, it just was not a go. And so you could say I was tricked or swindled back into the relationship, and then it got worse. And so, you know, fast forward to when the first anniversary of March 17th popped up for me was obviously 2021, and it was shortly before I was due to give birth. And I had actually thought that Nola was going to be born on that day, and I thought that instead of it being traumatic, that day would become a victorious day. That's why Nola's middle name is Victory. That day would become something that I celebrate, foreshadowing, right? And so this is 1 year after this has happened. That's what my mindset was. Like, we get to rewrite the history of St. Patrick's Day in my life, because St. Patrick's Day, every time I see the green coming out around this time of year, that's where my brain goes, because it was a traumatic event for me. And so it's very much like the body never forgets, or the body keeps a score, sorry, because that day was filled with a lot of emotion, a lot of trauma, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, upset. All these negative emotions are associated with St. Patrick's Day. At the time, the pandemic had just started and everything was locked down. And so all those things were in my mind when I was trying to get my ex to tell me about this Airbnb. I was trying to get him to tell me about his St. Patrick's Day plans, right? So I was asking about St. Patrick's Day, and I was asking if he's doing anything at work, if there's gonna be green beer. Like, I'm asking all these things because I want to know why I don't know about this Airbnb. In my journal, I literally wrote, like, I don't know if he's just going out with his friends at this Airbnb and throwing a party and doesn't want me there. Like, that's what the benefit of the doubt was giving, okay? And so I'm writing this and I'm saying, like, I can't jump to conclusions and assume that there's somebody else, even though my intuition is telling me maybe it's somebody else. Whenever St. Patrick's Day is coming up, I automatically think about this day in particular. It's not like I just think of this one thing. I think of everything that happened in the 3 days leading up to St. Patrick's Day, and of course what happened the morning of St. Patrick's Day. First time that it was happening, so in 2021, like I was saying, I was really depressed, like so upset, and I was crying when it was probably about the 15th. I started crying and stuff, and like I was really upset. The fact that every time I opened Instagram, I was seeing people like preparing for St. Patrick's Day and all these things, and I'm just like, well, St. Patrick's Day ain't about beer for me no more, you know what I mean? And so I was hoping actually that Nola was born that day, but of course Nola wasn't born until the 22nd. Instead of a Pisces baby, she ended up being an Aries baby, and let me tell you, problem city. But yeah, so when Nola wasn't born on the 17th, I felt kind of sad because I was like, damn it, like now I'm stuck thinking about St. Patrick's Day, because at that time I'm still with the person, right? Fast forward to the year after that, and baby, it was already over, right? Like the year after that, which is 2022, so the year that I end up leaving, I actually had just searched in my phone to see like the actual day that I packed my ex's items, and I'm not going to say what day it was just yet because my mind kind of got blown when I saw what day it was, because there's alignment there with this date in the future. So we're talking about that in another video. But like from the end of 2021, December 2021, I was already knowing that my marriage is not going to last. Like it was just a matter of how do I leave this relationship. It was over. In my mind, I'm checked out. I'm leaving. I just don't know how I'm going to leave. I don't know what I'm going to do when I leave. I don't know if I'm going to be on welfare. I don't know if I'm going to be taking my kids to a shelter so that I can get housing. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that it was up and it was stuck and I was out of there. And so fast forward to March of that year, it is back to the same place that it was in March of 2020. And D-Day was upon me again, right? But because the first situation happened the way it did and blew up the way it did, like my ex got a little bit more wise and a little bit more smart in how he moved. And maybe he figured if he doesn't come home, I can't check his phone. But like he would be stuffing his phone in between the mattress, like hiding his phone at any way he could. And then there was one day in particular that he was in the shower and I was hot on his tail because remember I had the text messages going to the iPad. So when I have the text message going to the iPad, I'm like, nah, I need to get into the actual phone because it's other things I need to check that I don't have coming to the iPad. I needed to get the phone, and he was in the shower and his phone wasn't in the shower. And I'm like, where is this man hiding the phone? Because it wasn't in the bedroom. I couldn't find it anywhere, right? And I didn't want to call it because I didn't want him to know that I'm looking for the phone. And I think it might have been attached to the iHome situation. Damn speaker's called. They're right here, chat. What is this called? AirPods? No. Chat. HomePod. HomePod. I knew it was something pod, chat. Okay, so the music was playing from his phone, but it was attached to the HomePod, and so if I called, it might disrupt it, so I didn't want to do that. So I'm looking for the phone in the room. I cannot find the phone, but I was trying to say I can't find my phone. And so he literally had to get out of the shower to go get his phone from wherever it was. And I don't know where he was hiding it, okay? He got the phone out the shower and gave it to me so that I could call my phone. Little did he know I could just use to find my iPhone with my iPad. But I didn't want to do that because I had a mission. I was trying to see what was going on with Rapunzel at the time because I had discovered her EpiPen in my house. So, child, this is so ghetto. So in March of that year, it was already being wrapped up because by March, I had already stood my ground and said, you gotta go. Where are you moving to? because you can't stay here and be cheating on me, driving this lady's car and parking it up the road from my house. Like, you are dead ass cheating, sleeping here when you can, sleeping over there when you can. None of that, okay? And so because of that situation, around March 17th of that year, the relationship was dissolved, right? It was like, we is getting the hell up out of Dodge. And so, I mean, it only took 2 years from the first cheating scandal for a second cheating scandal to arise, right? Again, around St. Patrick's Day is when ish hit the fan again. You know, I packed up all his things or whatever, and, you know, didn't allow him to come back to my house to sleep or live or whatever. At that point, though, my pain and my hurt was in a completely different space, because one, I was freeing myself, but two, I had already accepted that the relationship was over. So it was just like a matter of, what do I do now? How do I, you know, go on? Because my life didn't change as a mom. That part was always the same, right? Even in my journal, because there was a time that my ex had gone to Vancouver for a month for work, and in my journal I was writing that maybe I don't miss him because I was feeling guilty about not missing him. And so I was like, maybe I don't miss him because he's not here anyway, right? And so that's what I'm writing in my journal, and just things of that nature. I realized that when he's away, there was peace there that I didn't have, right? And so, you know, despite that though, because that was 2020. So despite that being the case, I still obviously wanted my marriage to work. So unaware that there's an affair with the first St. Patrick's situation, you know, obviously when he was coming back from Vancouver, I was like, things have to change. Like, we have to do this and that and get back on track, so that blah 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 blah. But not realizing that you're in an abusive relationship with somebody that plays mind games. You doing all that for no reason, girl. Like, those things, whatever you're saying is going in one ear and out the other, because they have their own, you know, motives and agenda. They don't want you to go into couples therapy, because if you do go into couples therapy and, you know, the therapist hears what's going on, you're gonna figure the frig out what is going on, and you're gonna leave, maybe, right? Because some people don't. Some people stay 25 years, child, 30 years, 40 years, because they realize what's gonna happen if they do leave, right? So some women, even some men, they stay and they put up with it. Most people are in long-term relationships with somebody that is narcissistic, because you spend so much time trying to figure out what's wrong. Am I the problem? Am I the drama? Is it what they're doing? You know, and so a lot of the stuff I didn't harbor because I was journaling it, right? And so he would do stuff and I would write about it in my journal, but like, I kind of just forget about it the next day because I got it out of me so that I wouldn't hate him, right? And so that's how I lived. And so in some of the journal entries, you hear me saying stuff like, I'm just trying to be more like Jesus and less like myself. So no matter what, I vowed to myself, I said, no matter what, no matter how he talks to me, no matter how he disrespects me, no matter what he says to me, it doesn't matter. He could call me every B in the book. Like, I'm not going to react. Right? And so I vowed that to myself. And so it probably was boggling his mind how I'm staying so grounded, but I had found God. So he couldn't shake me, right? Like, he couldn't get me out of my skin, no matter how disrespectful he would get. And so that can be frustrating, because if somebody is trying to upset you and purposely doing things, like even if it's like really petty, and you don't react the way that they in their mind made it up that you do react to what they do to you, they're gonna get frustrated and they're gonna amp it up. They're gonna amp it up. Like, for instance, something that was really petty, I think I've talked about this before. In my car, I always would have gum in my car, and I am very much, if I pull the gum out and I pop my gum out in order. And so he knew that, and I would pop the gum out, and I only pop it out from the one side, but he would come in the car and purposely start popping the gum out from the back side. But because I'm popping it out from the other side, and it's going 2, 4, 6, by the time I get to my last 4 gums, they're gone. And I don't know, because when I pull the gum out to pop it out, I pop it out in order. And why is my gum done? Because he purposely messed up the order of the gum popping out. And it's like, why are you doing that? You know how I pop up my gum. Like, very frustrating. Little things like that to drive you crazy. That's why I said petty, because that was like one of the petty things. It's just like if one time my mom asked him to take the towels that she nicely folded and put them in the linen closet, right? So all he was doing was taking them from where she had them and bringing them upstairs to the linen closet. When you put your towels in the linen closet and they're all stacked like this, you put them in like this. This man took the towels, turned them horizontally, and put them in there and thought it was funny. Like, she worked really hard on folding the damn towels. Like, it's little stuff like that to drive you nuts. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that every year on St. Patrick's Day, I am kindly reminded about what happened in 2020. And not because I want to be reminded, but just because it's ingrained in my brain. But I would say from 2023 to present day, 2025, I've been celebrating this day in particular because, like I stated in the beginning of the video, it's the day that God really stamped as the turning point in how he communicates with me, in how he covers me and my family, and letting me know that I can trust him. Even if what's about to happen is going to hurt me, it's going to be temporary. I'm going to get through it because he's with me. And so I will never look at St. Patrick's Day ever again and feel like it was a traumatic event, because at the end of the day, if St. Patrick's Day never happened, I might not be in Jamaica right now, safe and happy.
I think the irony too is St. Patrick's Day in 2023 was actually the day that the guy came to collect my barrels to ship them to Jamaica when we were first moving.
You know what I mean? Like, literally, it was the greatest setup of all time, because that situation that happened, that one little bit of proof of the abuse, was the catalyst to everything else that has transpired. And it got me my one-way ticket literally to Jamaica, and I've not had to look back since. And I'm so grateful that that day happened. I am so elated that I catch the man giving me bun and he threatened me, and the rest is history. Because the truth of the matter is, because I'm not the type of person to pull up my phone and start recording you when you're acting the plumb fool, like, I never thought that I would end up having to use that video to just get some peace. And when I did that, I didn't know that in the future that same protection order was going to make it possible for me to leave Canada. Every action gets a reaction, and so you can't spend years and years and years building up fear in somebody when they leave you and they decide they're going to put up a boundary there. You know, you can't be surprised by that, right? You can't be like winded and shocked that they are saying absolutely not, no more, you know? And so I think that happens to a lot of people, not just in romantic relationships, but even in like parental and child relationships. If you are a toxic parent and your child says, I don't want anything to do with you, God bless you, right? And they keep their distance and they don't talk to you. They might not even show up at your funeral. They're just like, okay, see you never. You were terrible. You were a terrible mom, dad, whatever you were. Obviously, if you're dead, you can't be surprised by anything. But some of them like to act oblivious as to why their child wants nothing to do with them. Meanwhile, others can see exactly why their child wants nothing to do with them. A good example of this would be like the dynamic between Tokyo Toni and Blac Chyna. Now, obviously, Blac Chyna was struggling with sobriety and all those things. And now that she's sober, you know, her and Tokyo Toni can get on a lot better. But Tokyo Toni can be very toxic. And if that's the environment that Chyna was in for so long, obviously they're gonna have, you know, problems there. But Blac Chyna is clearly somebody that's very forgiving, right? Much like me, like I'm very forgiving. And so people will do stuff to me and do stuff to me and do stuff to me, and I'll be like turning my other cheek, and then I run out of cheeks to turn, and it gets a little bit more serious. But like at the end of the day, if St. Patrick's Day 2020 did not transpire, I probably wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now. And so I have to know that God literally set everything up and planned everything out to a T without my knowledge. Okay, I did not know what was going to happen 5 years later. I didn't know what was going to happen 1 year later. You know what I mean? But like St. Patrick's Day in the beginning was a sore spot for me, whereas now all I see is victory in that. And so, you know, it's just really nice to be able to celebrate something that was at one point traumatic. What I want to say is, if you have your D-Day, please don't stay, Chad. Don't stay. And better yet, don't stay and have another baby. Because like I was definitely, poor judgment, Delulu, heavily, severely under MK Ultra, but the type of mental anguish that I suffered was, I would have never have clued in unless I went to therapy. And so therapy started early in 2022, and it only took about maybe 3 or 4 sessions, because I would see my therapist once a week. And so she was a psychotherapist, love her to pieces. And about 3 to 4 sessions for me to realize what the frig was going on. And once I realized what the frig was going on, nothing else mattered but getting out of the relationship. I think 2022 was a turning point for a lot of people that were in my kinds of situations, because I was watching Tootsie Time, Diana, and her story is so similar to mine. Is like eerie. The timing, what was going on, just the psychotic behavior. Even her ex-husband had a baby. Like, it's crazy. And I'm just looking at Tootsie like, oh, like our stories are really, really similar. I hope she gets to the healing point that I'm at, because she posted a video the other day and I was just like, no, girl, delete, girl, don't be posting that. But I get it, she was provoked. And even that, I've been provoked by the new supplies and the flying monkeys. And so I'm watching Tootsie Time and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel for her. But like, I just hope that she gets to that point where she knows she doesn't have to react in those ways, and that she'll get to that point too where she can celebrate. And in the last video I watched of hers, she was referring to her ex as her man and her husband. And I just like, let me go pray for my sis, okay? Let me go pray for my sis, because once you leave them, I don't think that you should still refer to them as that. If you say you're done with them and you don't want them and blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, baby. Do not claim that man, girl. Do not claim that. You sound crazy. Don't claim that man. But, like, yeah, like, But, yeah. That's pretty much it for this video. It was actually longer than I anticipated. One, to say happy St. Patrick's Day. And D-Day has now become C-Day, Celebration Day. So, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, or had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, because by the time you see this girl, St. Patrick's Day finna be over. But, yeah, if your man is giving you bun, leave him. That's it. Don't stay. Don't have another child and complicate the things. Like, just leave. Once you find out about the cheating on the first time, don't think that you can work it out in all these things. And so I'll talk about what happens after in a different video, because I don't think I've done a video like that. What, like, your mindset and how you view things and how your body changes and all these things that you deal with after you deal with infidelity. But yeah, it's just not wise to stay, because I think when you do stay after somebody cheats on you, you're letting them know that you will literally put up with anything. You'll literally put up, like, you're moving the post. Because when I used to watch Love and Hip Hop and I see Rashida, I'm like, could not be me. And for me, cheating was always a deal breaker. And maybe And I think at the time I thought, you know what, maybe if I wasn't married, I would deal with this differently. If it was just a boyfriend-girlfriend situation or just baby mama, baby daddy situation, but I was married, so I was looking at it differently. No, because that's even worse, Chad. Like, we're married. Why are you cheating on me? Like, this is crazy, you know? And so I think that at the time, that's how my brain started to process, like, well, that's not just your boyfriend. It's not going to be so simple to just leave. So maybe you should try to work it out, see where it went wrong, all these things. But that's the wrong move, because I went from, if he cheats or if someone cheats on me, I'm leaving, to, well, if somebody cheats on me and has a baby or gives me an STD or something of that nature, then I'll leave. No! Wrong mentality. The cheating is, once the trust is broken, it's never coming back. And I can promise you that. And people can swear up and down that, you know, they cheated and their spouse or whoever didn't trust them after that, but they regained the trust, they built it back up, they never cheated again. No. In the back of that person's minds, it's a little bell going off. Every time you come home 1 minute too late, if you do this or that, baby, they're thinking you're out there smashing somebody, period. Okay? That's just what it is. There's no way around it. Once the trust is broken, the trust is broken, chat. You just gotta go. Because it's going to be hell for everybody. It's going to be hell for everybody. It doesn't matter if he convinced you to stay or she convinced you to stay after the cheating. Don't do it. Anyway, that's it for this video. I love you all so much, and I will definitely see you in the next one.